The unsolved mystery behind the disturbing death of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was found dead in a water tank at the notorious Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles in 2013. To this day, nobody knows how she died or how her body got there. In 22 years plus of doing this job as a news reporter, this is one of those cases that kind of sticks with me because we know the who, what, when, and where. But the why is always the question, said NBC LA reporter Lolita Lopez in reference to the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. To this day, nobody knows how exactly Elisa Lam died. We know that the 21-year-old Canadian college student was last seen in the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles on January 31st, 2013. But the infamously chilling hotel surveillance video that captured the bizarre final moments before her disappearance, let alone the other details that have emerged since, have only elicited more questions than answers. Ever since her body was discovered in the hotel's water tank on February 19, her tragic demise has remained shrouded in mystery. Although the coroner's office ruled her death as an accidental drowning, the strange details of Lam's case have fueled rampant speculation about what may have really happened. Internet sleuths have come up with a myriad of theories about the tragedy, involving everything from murder conspiracies to evil spirits. But when it comes to the disturbing death of Elisa Lam, where does the truth lie? On January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam arrived in LA. She had just come by Amtrak train from San Diego and was headed to Santa Cruz as part of her solo trip around the West Coast. The trip was supposed to be a getaway from her studies at the University of BC in Vancouver, where she was originally from. Her family had been wary of her traveling by herself, but the young student was determined to go at it alone. As a compromise, Lam made sure to check in with her parents every day of the trip to let them know that she was safe. That's why it struck her parents as unusual when they didn't hear from their daughter on January 31st, the day she was scheduled to check out of her LA hotel, the Cecil. The Lams eventually contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. The police searched the premises of the Cecil but couldn't find her. Police soon released surveillance footage taken from the cameras at the Cecil Hotel on their website. This is where things took a turn in the truly bizarre. I'm going to show you that video, and then I'll continue with the story as to what happened after that and what I think might have happened. 4 or 5 different speculations as to what happened to Elisa Lam. But for now, here is that video of her in the hotel elevator acting very strange, or as if something was really, really up. Okay, so the hotel video showed Elisa Lam in one of its elevators on the date of her disappearance acting rather strangely. In the pixelated footage, Lam can be seen stepping into the elevator and pushing all the floor buttons. She steps in and out of the elevator, poking her head out sideways toward the hotel's hallways in between. She peers out of the elevator another few times before stepping out of the elevator entirely. The last minutes of the video show Lam standing by the left side of the door, moving her hands in random gestures. Nobody else was captured on the video, except Lam. Public reaction to the inexplicable video crossed all the way to Canada and China, where Lam's family is originally from. The 4-minute video of Lam's strange elevator episode has amassed tens of millions of views. The 4-minute video was actually extended from the original, which was 3 minutes. It was slowed down to 4, but this one that I showed was the actual 3-minute non-extended version. It was the regular speed version. On February 19, 2 weeks after the video was published by authorities, maintenance worker Santiago Lopez found Elisa Lam's dead body floating in one of the hotel water tanks. Lopez made the discovery after responding to complaints from hotel patrons about low water pressure and a weird taste coming from the tap water. According to a statement by the chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department, the tank in which Lam's body was found had to be drained completely and then cut open from the side to remove her 5'4" frame. Nobody knows how Lam's corpse, floating lifelessly next to the same clothes she wore in the surveillance video, ended up in the hotel's water tank, or who else might have been involved. Hotel staff told authorities that Lam was always seen by herself around the hotel premises. But at least one person did see Lam soon before her death. At a nearby shop, eerily named The Last Bookstore, owner Katie Orphan was among the last to see Elisa Lam alive. Orphan remembered the college student buying books and music for her family back in Vancouver. It seemed like Lam had plans to return home, plans to give things to her family members and reconnect with them, Orphan said. When the autopsy results for Lam's case came out, it only served to ignite more questions. The toxicology report confirmed that Lam had consumed a number of medical drugs, likely to be medication for her bipolar disorder, but there were no indications of alcohol or illegal substances in her body. Soon after the toxicology report came out, amateur sleuths began poring over any information they could find in hopes of solving the mystery behind the death of Elisa Lam. For example, one summary of Lam's toxicology report was posted online by a Reddit sleuth with an obvious interest in medicine. The breakdown pointed out 3 key observations. 1. Lam took at least 1 antidepressant that day. 2. Lam had taken her second antidepressant and mood stabilizer recently, but not that day. And 3. Lam had not taken her antipsychotic recently. These conclusions suggested that Lam, who had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, may have not been taking her medications properly. It is an important finding to note, given that the use of antidepressants to treat bipolar disorder can risk inducing manic side effects if done without caution. Some sleuths have understandably latched onto this detail and suggested it was a likely explanation behind Lam's strange behavior in the elevator. Hotel manager Amy Price's statement in court strongly supports this theory. During Lam's stay at the Cecil Hotel, Price said that Lam was originally booked in a hostel-style shared room with others. However, complaints of odd behavior from Lam's roommates forced Lam to be moved to a private room by herself. But even if Elisa Lam had been suffering from mental health issues, how did she end up dead? Furthermore, how did she end up in the hotel's water tank? The autopsy did not show any foul play from the evidence that was processed, but the coroner's office noted that they were unable to do a full examination because they could not examine the blood from Lam's decomposing body. David and Yina Lam filed a wrongful death suit against the Cecil Hotel several months after their daughter's death was uncovered. The Lamb's attorney stated that the hotel had a duty to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to Lam and other hotel guests. The hotel fought back against the suit, filing a motion to dismiss it. The hotel's lawyers argued that the hotel had no reason to think that someone would be able to get into one of their water tanks. Based on court statements from the hotel's maintenance staff, the hotel's argument is not entirely far-fetched. Santiago Lopez, who was the first to find Lam's body, described in detail how much effort he had to exert just to find her body. Lopez said that he took the elevator to the 15th floor of the hotel before walking up the staircase to the roof. Then he had to first turn off the rooftop alarm and climb up on the platform where the hotel's 4 water tanks were located. Finally, he had to climb another ladder to get to the top of the main tank. Only after all that did he notice something unusual. I noticed the hatch to the main water tank was open and looked inside and saw an Asian woman lying face up in the water, approximately 12 inches from the top of the tank, Lopez said. Lopez's testimony suggested that it would have been difficult for Lam to make it to the top of the water tank on her own, at least not without anyone noticing. The hotel's chief engineer, Pedro Tovar, also made it clear that it would be difficult for anyone to access the rooftop, where the hotel water tanks were located, without triggering the alarms. Only hotel employees would be able to deactivate the alarm properly. If it was triggered, the sound of the alarm would reach the front desk as well as the entire top 2 floors of the hotel. Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Howard Halm ruled that the death of Elisa Lam was unforeseeable because it had happened in an area that guests were not allowed to access, so the lawsuit was dismissed. Elisa Lam's mysterious demise was not the first to happen at the Cecil Hotel. In fact, the building's sordid past has earned its reputation as one of the most supposedly haunted properties in Los Angeles. Since opening its doors in 1927, the Cecil Hotel has been plagued by 16 different non-natural deaths and unexplained paranormal events. The most famous death associated with the hotel, other than Lam's, was the 1947 murder of actress Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, who was reportedly seen drinking at a hotel bar in the days before her grisly demise. The hotel has also hosted some of the country's most notorious killers. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, lived on the top floor of the hotel during his monstrous killing spree. The story goes that after a murder, Ramirez would dump his bloody clothes outside the hotel and return half naked. Back then, the hotel was in such disarray that Ramirez's nude stunt barely raised an eyebrow. 6 years later, another murderous patron moved into the hotel, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger, who earned the nickname Vienna Strangler. With such a macabre history, one would think that the Cecil Hotel would soon be condemned. But actually, the old building was recently granted landmark status by the Los Angeles City Council. The hotel was given the distinction because of the building's opening back in the 1920s, which is considered the beginning of the lodging industry in the U.S. Meanwhile, the tragic death of Elisa Lam at the hotel has inspired pop culture adaptations like Ryan Murphy's American Horror Story, Hotel. During a press conference for the show, Murphy stated that the new season was inspired by a surveillance video from a Los Angeles-based hotel that surfaced 2 years ago. The footage showed a girl in an elevator who was never seen again, an obvious reference to Elisa Lam and her bizarre elevator episode. More recently, a gaming studio came under fire after users of the game Y2K, a postmodern RPG, found undeniable resemblances to Lam's case in the storyline. In one scene of the game, main character Alex receives a video file showing another character, Sammy, in an elevator. The elevator door opens to reveal an alternate dimension on the other side. Sammy is then captured by a demon, kicking and screaming all the while. In a 2016 interview with Waypoint, Andrew Allenson, co-founder of Axe Studios, which is the company behind the Y2K game, talked about how the death of Elisa Lam had influenced this development, saying that there still hasn't been a great official story about her. I remember on local news they reported it from the gross out angle because people drank water that a corpse had been floating in. That's unfortunate. But what about the poor girl who died? It's easy to say she was off her meds, but why can't people think a bit more about her as a person? While an answer to the mystery behind the death of Elisa Lam remains unclear, the obsession surrounding that mystery has remained in the public consciousness ever since. I've got a few theories, four, and what I want you all to do, as well as shoot me the comments in this comment section below. Let me know what you guys think happened. Was she murdered? Was it suicide? Was it because of her meds? I want to know what you think. But before all that, if you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe. I do post new videos daily, so make sure you hit the bell notification icon so you will get notified each and every time I do post a new video. I do live streams as well, not just about this, but many topics. If this kind of thing does interest you, please don't forget, subscribe. It's all about the peace and love on this channel. Let me tell you now about my theories, and then we'll wrap it up. And again, I want to hear what you guys have to say. All right, so here we go. Okay, so 4 really explanations as to what could have happened. All right, I'll go with the 4, and then again, I want to hear what you guys think. It has to be one of these though, right? So 1, Elisa was murdered. Nobody has found conclusive evidence that she wasn't a victim of murder. Elisa could have been murdered by a hotel worker or another guest. The footage of her at the elevator could be a game of hide and seek she is playing hide and seek with a killer. Some people think this is plausible and it would make the most sense. How else did she get through the alarm door, up the 3-meter ladder, and into the water tank? All 4 tanks are 4 by 8 feet, which is 1.2 by 2.4 meters. Cylinders propped up on concrete blocks. There is no fixed access to them, and hotel workers had to use a ladder to look into the water. They are protected by heavy lids that would be so difficult to replace from within. Police dogs that searched through the hotel for Lam, even on the roof shortly after her disappearance, was noted that they did not find any trace of her. Elisa's Tumblr blog also mentioned she was having trouble with creepers in the hotel, suggesting someone may have been following her. What's even more bizarre is her blog was also updated several times after her death, attracting hundreds of thousands of shares by readers. Most think this was because of the site's queue option, which allows posts to automatically publish when the user is away. But since her mobile phone was never found, others suspect the thief, or the killer, was posting for her. The biggest signpost to her murderer being a hotel worker is this. Doors and stairs that access the hotel's roof are locked, with only staff having the passcodes and keys, and any attempt to force them would have, in theory, triggered an alarm. Okay? Number 2, Elisa was assassinated. Okay, this one may seem a little extreme, but some people actually think that Elisa may have been assassinated, with a bizarre link to cloaking devices. Use Google Maps to take a look at the hotel, which is now rebranded as Stay on Main, and you will see something called the Invisible Light Agency, which is based inside the hotel. Perhaps some cheap company that was based there once? Who knows, but there is no further information to be found explaining this. Some people have suggested that Elisa had links with and conversations with military members and had posted articles about cloaking technology in the military, which have since been deleted, on Facebook and Twitter. These comments occurred before her trip to LA. Perhaps this invisible light agency is known for working with visual effects? Then perhaps her actions in the lift are an attempt on her part to lose her invisible assailant. This would account for her seemingly frustrated and anxious looks at some moments while playful and confused at others, and account for her feeling around and trying to tuck back into the corner to try to eliminate possibilities of where the person was. It might have been extremely psychologically distressing running from an invisible person. When the video first started, Elisa is seen pressing the buttons very deliberately, and some even believe she may have been following instructions. Additionally, if someone was testing invisible technology, what better location than where there is a history of paranormal claims, where no one will believe tenants for their reputation of poverty and craziness? Which bring me to my next explanation. The paranormal. Okay, so this theory is largely tied up in the history of the hotel itself. Since the Cecil Hotel's grand opening in the 1920s, it has been the site of numerous unresolved murders and suicides. In the 1980s, the hotel served as the home of famed serial killer Richard Ramirez. So the hotel has a seedy reputation, with the Cecil Hotel being found in downtown LA near Skid Row. This explanation suggests that when Elisa is pressing buttons at random in the elevator, she is possessed by a paranormal spirit causing her to commit suicide. The hotel is rumored to be haunted. Several people claim to have been choked by thin air, and a woman mysteriously died via choking, but her assailant was never found. The hotel itself is said to carry terribly dark energy that causes some pretty effed up things to occur. Another paranormal explanation of her death has been that Elisa was playing the elevator game, a Korean game that involves using an elevator to travel to another dimension. Basically, this is how it goes. The game is from Korea. By performing this ritual, you are supposed to get to a different world. According to people that have successfully completed the game, it looks the same as the town building that you are from. But all the lights are off, and you can only see a red cross in the distance. There are no other living things there except yourself. Some say electronics like phones, cameras, etc. don't work, while some say they do. Also, some say that getting back to the real world is harder for some reason. You get disoriented and forget the elevator you came on, or somehow the elevator seems to get further and further away as you walk towards it. How to do it? You must be in a 10-plus story building and in the elevator alone. If someone is in the elevator with you, it won't work. So, here are the steps. Number 1, get on the elevator on the first floor. Then, press 4, and when you reach the 4th floor, don't get out and press 2. When you reach the 2nd floor, press 6. When you reach the 6th floor, press 2. When you reach the 2nd floor, press 10. And when you reach the 10th floor, press 5. Now, when you reach the 5th floor, a girl will come in. That woman is not human. Don't talk or look at the girl. If you do, she'll take you away. Press 1. And if the elevator instead starts going up to the 10th floor, then you have succeeded. You will have reached another world where there is no one except you. If you get off at the 10th floor, the girl will ask, "Where are you going?" But don't answer. And how to return? If the woman doesn't get on, and if you don't get off at the 10th floor, then press 1. If it doesn't press, keep on pressing until it works. Proponents of the elevator game theory suggest that it is normal when returning to your own dimension that you are disoriented and confused, and that Elisa, in this confused state, climbed into a water tank herself. Indeed, giving more credit to paranormal explanations of Elisa's death are its eerie similarities to the horror film Dark Water, in which the residents of a tower block complaining about black water leaking into their flat eventually discover a body in the water tank at the top of their building. And number 4, the most tragic one, I think, is Elisa killed herself. This explanation ties in most closely with official reports given about her death. Most people think that Elisa drowned accidentally. Perhaps Elisa was experiencing a psychotic episode and her behavior in the lift is symptomatic of visual hallucinations. Perhaps, some suggest, the elevator is in service mode and you need to keep the close button down until the door fully closes. However, Elisa thinks that someone is pressing the button to keep the door open from the outside, hence the peeking out. She returns pressing the buttons again. Whatever you think is behind her death, one last chilling piece of interesting information surrounding Elisa Lam's mysterious death is this. After the discovery of Elisa Lam's body, a deadly outbreak of tuberculosis occurred on Skid Row near the Cecil Hotel. The name of the test kit used in those kinds of situations? Lam Elisa. Guys, gals, everything in between. If you enjoyed this, as I said, don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, hit the bell notification icon. You'll get notified each and every time I post new videos. As always, peace and love. Stay safe out there, especially in these times. I hope you enjoyed the story. Many more to come. For now, Mavakaga. Out.